Hi everyone, happy Canada Day. Beth Ruddy here. I live in Meaford and I teach yoga in Meaford right now, just online, but I do have a studio and I'm happy to be offering this Canada Day practice to you today. 2 years ago, we were fortunate enough to have beautiful weather and lots of people to come out to a live Canada Day yoga practice in Meaford Harbor, right on the rocks, right near the water. It was beautiful, and the wind was blowing. It was an amazing experience. And unfortunately, of course, due to the pandemic, we couldn't do that last year, so I did one online. And this year, the town is doing it this way. So this is an awesome way to stay connected on Canada Day. And then fingers crossed for 2022, we can get back to our outdoor practice together as a community. So happy to be here today. We're going to do a flowing yoga practice. We'll start with a little bit of sitting and connecting to breath, and then we'll move through some things. Make sure that you have some props nearby. You can have a chair if you don't have yoga blocks. I've got a couple of yoga blocks here. They can be cork or foam or wood. You can also have a tie. This is a scarf or it's just a cotton tie, but you can use a necktie. You can have a yoga strap if you have a yoga strap. And good idea to have a blanket if your knees are a little bit sensitive to put under your knees. And because I can't see you, and it's not ideal for me to teach not seeing you and connecting with you, I feel you. But because I can't see you, I really want you to make sure that you listen extremely well to what your body is saying. And any sign of pain is a sign that something is about to happen or is happening in your body. So let's move away from pain and stay in a pain-free range of motion. And probably a good idea, if you haven't, to check with your doctor to make sure that it is okay for you to be practicing this class today. So I'll try to make it so that there's lots of modifications for everybody. So let's just take a moment. You can close your eyes, and if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, just take your gaze down a little bit. You can sit on a chair, you can sit on some yoga props, but somewhere where your spine can be nice and tall and lifted, and you can balance your head on top of your rib cage, on top of your pelvis. And everything's in this beautiful line. Let's take a moment to connect with breath, connect with spirit, connect with the ancestors of all the indigenous people who this was their land before we came here. And let's take some time to honor the 215 children who were found recently in Kamloops. And set an intention to send out love and healing light to all those generations since and before. And may we find a way to participate in the healing. If you're okay to connect with your own breath, notice how you're breathing. If breath is not something you want to follow today, that's okay. You can keep your gaze low and just focus on a point somewhere that's not moving. And consider for a moment the reasons why you are happy to be Canadian. And perhaps you can reflect on that throughout the practice today. Find gratitude for living here. Begin to deepen and lengthen your breath if you're following your breath, equalizing both your inhales and your exhales. And beginning to notice the gaps, the spaces in between. And without a lot of work, just kind of keep an eye on what's going on with your breath throughout your practice. And if you are not comfortable with breath but want to tune in every once in a while to see how it is, that's okay too. And then wherever you're sitting, you can lift your head back up and slowly open your eyes. And if you're sitting in a chair, this is so easy. You can do the same thing in the chair as you can sitting. But check in with your posture to see if it's changed at all. We're going to start slow and then we'll build a little bit. Take your right hand, I'm going to mirror you, out to the side or down the chair leg and lean out to the side. Lift your other arm up. You can turn and look to your hand or turn and look down. Just take a moment to lengthen through the side of the body. I'm going to refer to breath throughout the whole practice. And if it's something that's not good for you, for your experience, then just tune me out. So maybe turn a little bit. Let's open up and turn and allow this side of the body to expand a little bit more with breath. And if not, you're simply stretching. And then come back up on a breath. Take your other hand, your left hand, over and take your right hand up. You can bend your arm here. You want to be cautious if you have any pain in your shoulder. So pay attention and be aware of what's going on in your body. As you lean over, you may find that your right sit bone is lifting away from the chair or the block. Anchor it back down, root it back down, and then take some time to breathe into the side and turn your head. Just explore movement. That's really what I want to do today, is explore movement as if it's the first time doing any of these movements. And then come back up with a breath. And back to the first side, lean over. Sit bone down, and your sit bones are the two bony parts at the bottom of your pelvis. And then turn a little bit, wrapping your left rib cage towards your right arm and reach out forward on a diagonal line. So now I can breathe a little bit more deeply into the back of my ribs, back into my waist, and maybe I come down towards the floor. If you're sitting in the chair, you're reaching out and down. Head can come down. Play with it a little bit, directing breath. Adjust your legs if this is not a comfortable position for your knees or your ankles. And then rise up on a breath. And then go to the second side, lean over. So we start leaning over, and then we do the rotation. So the rotation happens up here in the rib cage. We turn, we look out, we reach out, and I want to anchor my right sit bone down as I reach out. Maybe come a little bit lower, maybe not. Just kind of play with where do I want to feel something today. There's no right or wrong in yoga, except for what's right for your body in the moment. But no two people will be doing the pose the same way. And then slowly lift up. Come on back up and back into the center. And then bring your arms like this as if you're sitting in a chair. And we're going to do a rotation. So rotate to the left, come back to the center, rotate to the right, come back to the center. Same again. So we're doing this without leverage. As we go through the practice, we'll add in some leverage. I just want you to get the feel of where this rotation happens. I'm not moving my legs around. I'm not moving my pelvis around. And one more on each side. Then I'm going to change it. Are you ready? Come back into the center, lower your arms, lift your arms up with a breath, and then as you inhale or exhale, it doesn't matter to me, turn to the left, bring your arms down, come back up, all the way over to the right side and arms down. Lift up again, turn. So adding in a little bit more movement through the shoulder joints. Legs haven't started moving yet, so you can be doing this sitting in a chair. I really want to make this all levels, so at any time, there are ways to change or modify the poses. We're all doing the same here, whether you're sitting in a chair or sitting on blocks. One more time on each side. So we go left, up, and then right. And then as we come to right, either you're going to get up off your chair or come forward and turn until you're on your hands and knees. Just move the chair slightly forward. This is where you might want to put in a blanket. Have a blanket for your knees. And you can support your shins all the way from your knee to your ankle. So your feet hang off. You can tuck your toes under or you can leave your feet flat, depending on what's going on. Take a few moments to set up your hands so that your fingers are spread wide, not in a stretched out sort of way, just an even spacing between them. And think of this part of your palm like a suction cup. And place the suction cup edges down on the floor. I'm not so concerned about which way your fingers point, but I do want my hand to line up with my wrist. So I'm only going to do this once in the practice, and then it's up to you to play with it. If you lay your forearms down, look for a line that's even on both sides of your wrist when your palms are down and your forearms are down. And then you can adjust your hands so you're looking for an evenness on each side of the wrist. Then when you come up, you can press into the suction cup and press into each fingerprint. That will give you a nice solid connection to the earth while not sinking into it, an ability to lift up and feel supported and lifted by the earth. And then let's go into some movement. So move back and forth. We'll come forward and back. Again with breath. I know traditionally, I'm going to say traditionally, meaning modern postural yoga, will say breathe in one direction specifically and out the other direction. But I'm going to say, you know what? There's no absolutes. You can decide. Everything is going to give you something. So what is it that you want? So I'm pushing back and forward, but I'm also adding rounding through my low back and my mid back, my upper back, and then I'm kind of coming into an arch. Feel free to move back and forth and even, depending on how your knees feel, lift your feet off the ground and come back. I'm going to add something to this. What does it feel like? Does it feel like too much weight on your knees? Can you roll to just above your knees? And then when you come back, is it possible to slide your hands and just barely hover them off the floor and slide them forward again? I want to do some movement today that might not feel like typical yoga poses. I want to explore some interesting and different movements. One more time, and this is only suggestions. You can do exactly what you want to do here. And then tuck your toes under, keep the suction cups in your hands active, and lift your knees off the floor, come up into downward dog. In downward dog, bend one knee and then the other, alternating one at a time. If this is too much for your shoulders, here's your option. Stay down with your knees on the blanket. Walk your hands further forward and go long through your spine. That's an option anytime we go into downward dog. You can also do downward dog on the chair with your hands on the seat of the chair. That's one of the advantages of us doing this like this with you at home is that you can get props. It's harder when we're down by the water, but we'll figure something out. So come back down onto your knees one more time. Walk your hands a little further forward. Come forward and allow your pelvis to move forward, but keep your belly toned and lifted. Bend at your elbows, come about halfway, and then lift back up again. Just kind of testing the waters to see where do I need to put my efforts to stay in a long line through my spine. One more time, we're going to come down. Land your pelvis on the floor. Shift your hands back beside your rib cage and then lift up, taking your gaze forward. Keep the back of your neck nice and long. Take a breath here or stay for a moment and then press down, lift up, and again, downward dog. Adjust your hands, tuck your toes, lift your knees. Bring your feet a little closer together and lift your right leg up. As your right leg lifts up, lower your left heel towards the floor. Doesn't have to land. We're just testing it out. I'm lowering and lifting, kind of testing out and warming up through my calf muscles and my shin muscles. And then look forward, lift your shoulders, step your foot wherever it gets and help it the rest of the way. We'll come up into a high lunge, so put your support in your feet, both front and back, arms out to the sides and lift up. Here we go. Elbows can always be bent. This is always an option in your practice, especially if there's pain. We want to stay away from pain. One more moment here, and then come back down. Back into our downward dog. Change feet. Lift your left up, drop your right heel towards the floor. Level out your pelvis here. I'll let you turn your hips the next time we come, but for now, pelvis is level. Get that stretch in your calf. Raise up on your right toes and down. One last time. Then to come forward, shift your shoulders forward, look forward, bend your left leg, and step wherever you step. Help it forward, press down and away with both feet to rise up. High lunge here. High lunge. Take a breath here, stay for another moment. It doesn't matter to me where your front knee is, as long as it's facing forward, that's the most important thing. And then come back down. Instead of stepping back, bring your hands to the floor, to the chair, to your blocks, and step forward. Here, put your hands to your shins and lengthen your spine. And then release. And when I say release, what I mean is allow your spine to move into what's called flexion, rounding of the low back to the mid back to the upper back. Let's do that again. As you press your hands into your shins push back into your hands, creating a solid structure to lengthen your spine from. Then we keep the front of the body long as we fold back in and give that rounding to the back of the body. It's possible that you need to have a little bit more space between your feet. And as you come forward, you bend your knees a little bit more. Let's do one more like that. Might be how I would do it. Forward bends are all about getting the pelvis to move before we get the spine to move. And then rise back up. Right up to Tadasana. Let's take a moment in Tadasana. Step your feet a little bit wider. Move my mat out of the way. And I'd like you to just swing around like this in a circle. Notice I'm picking up my heel and I'm rotating from side to side. I'm doing this so I can have a spiraling movement through my body, and I don't want to twist through my knees. So then I'm going to add one arm goes up, one arm goes down, and I'm reaching. So remind yourself again why it's so great to live here and why we're so thankful. Especially through a pandemic, through the crazy year we've had that the whole world has been experiencing. Okay, let it slowly wind down. Step your feet a little bit closer together for Urdhva Hastasana, or hands up, upward flying pose, upward facing pose, whatever. Take a moment here to feel strong and lifted. And then bend at your elbows. Hold on to your elbows and lengthen from your rib cage up through your armpit right up to your elbows. See if you can do this without shrugging your shoulders up by your ears. Lengthen through the sides of your body. Lean over to your left and then come back up. Lean over to your right. Come back up. What might be of challenge to you if you want to is to keep your arms up like this and the same distance apart and move from side to side. Your call. Please don't hold your breath though. Even if you're not tuning in, tune in here to just make sure that you're allowing your breath to flow. Okay, last time. Back into the center and bring your arms back down. Take your arms up with a breath. Bend at your knees, come forward, hands to your blocks, your chair, or the floor, or your shins. Lengthen your spine. Bring your hands to the floor and slide or step your right foot back. Bring your right knee down on the floor, and then walk your hands back, pivoting on your heel, lifting your toes up, and move forward again. This is where good place, I'm going to grab my block here, to bring in your blocks, if you have them, to stay relatively high. If you don't have blocks, so this is how I would use my blocks, just to keep me a little bit higher. If I didn't have blocks, but I did have a chair, I could do this. These lightweight folding chairs are the best for yoga. I actually took out the back of this chair myself. It's really easy. There's lots of YouTube videos. So if you plan on doing a lot of yoga, no matter what level you're at, a chair is so great. It's great to keep you supported, but also to work on some more advanced poses that might require you to hold them longer. Okay, so come forward, hold, release your arms and lift them up. If you don't feel steady enough, keep your hands on your leg or your chair. And here's a nice fun thing to try. It's a challenge. Press down into both feet and push them away from each other. See if you can get your back knee off the floor. Come on up. And then 2 more times we'll come down. You don't have to touch the floor, but we're moving towards the floor. 1 and 2. And then hold here. Take a breath. Take your arms out to the sides and circle them forward. As you shift forward, if you have your chair here, you can push your chair forward and lift your back leg off the floor. If you don't have your chair or your blocks, you can bring your hands to your waist. We're doing a bowing pose here, warrior 3. And then tip your body back. Bring your right leg up in front of you and take hold around the front of your shin or underneath your knee and take a breath or 2. Release your leg down. It's going back again. Guess what? You're going to lean back, bend your left leg, step back, reaching back, and then rotate your whole right leg out to the side, keeping your left leg where it is. I'm wiggling my foot away from me, and I'm keeping my toes more pointed to the side. Now I want to bring my whole body up, my pelvis and my body upright. Take your arms out into a warrior 2 pose. Take a breath here. If you want to explore these poses in detail, let me know. I have a bunch of recorded classes from this past year that I'm selling over the summer. 10 classes for $50. Can't beat that. Lots of good instruction. Bring your back hand down, rotate your top arm, lift it up. I want to keep you in your yoga. And then exhale, lean forward or inhale and elbow to your thigh. Sweep this arm now and reach it up and forward. Rotate your body so your rib cage turns towards the right. Look up, look down. You get to decide. Lift right up out of this bottom shoulder so that you feel strong through your shoulder, not sinking into it. And then rotate your body. Bring your hands down. Find your suction cups. And step back, downward dog. Take 3 breaths in downward dog. Or count 3 ohms. Or count to Canada 3 times. Canada 1, Canada 2, Canada 3. And then walk your feet forward to the front of your mat. Bend at your knees. Sweep your arms out to the sides and come up to stand. Bring your arms back down. Bring your hands in front of your heart and take a moment, again, to reflect. Wherever you happen to be right now, can you find gratitude for that? Reach your arms out to the sides again. This time lift them up, bent arms or straight, and sit back as if you're sitting in a chair. Long spine, take 2 breaths here, 2 Canadas here. And then release, bring your hands down to your chair, blocks, or floor. Lengthen your spine or shins. Allow your spine to move into flexion. Bring your hands to the floor and slide or step your left foot back. I'm just changing sides so I face the camera better. Left side back. Bring your left knee down. And here we go. Blocks or chair in place and rock back and forth. We're about halfway through the class. We'll do a few more standing poses. Connect with this movement here. What exactly are we doing here? Why would I have you do this? What are you getting out of it? You know, like you can do it different ways. I can take my pelvis forward as I come forward. I can come back and more sit back. What does that feel like in your knee? What does it feel like in your hips? Here's another option. As you move back, you can keep your foot on the ground. Does that feel like what you want from a stretch? Or do you want to tip your foot with your leg? There's no right or wrong. There's only cause and effect. Each way you do something is going to give you something different. Okay, one last time. Come forward and pause. This is the challenging part. Here's one way you can transition, hands to your thigh. But somehow you need to stabilize because you're taking your back knee off the ground, and instead of having 3 points that you're supported on, you're going to have 2. So breathe and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And notice that moment just before you try to lift your back knee off the floor. Notice how your body wants to support you. And instead of allowing a gripping or a bracing to happen, keep breathing as you lift your back knee off the ground. Boom, we did it. And then take your arms out and up, bent arms if you like, and let's go down 2 times. Knee towards the floor, it does not have to touch. If you feel pain or pressure in your knee, not a good thing to do. Just go to where you don't feel the pressure. And then come back down, hands to your blocks, to your chair. Beautiful. Take your blocks out of the way. No, maybe not. Take your blocks, move them forward. Push off on your back foot. Here we go. We did this one-legged pose. Come up, hands can go to your waist. Arms can go forward. This is warrior 3. Am I right out of the camera? It's hard for me to tell. I'm using my phone here. Level pelvis as much as you can. I would rather you feel comfortable and safe and happy through your pelvis than having a level pelvis. And then as you come back, reach your foot back, come back into a high lunge. Here we go, up. And then come forward again. Lift your knee up. This is your left leg, or the other one if you did the other side first, or this side already. As you're holding on, it can be under your knee. Let this sit bone of the bent leg drop down so your pelvis is more level again. Nice tall spine like we had at the beginning. And then we'll release, bend your right leg. Find that balance and counterbalance as you reach back with your leg and find the floor. Slide your foot back. Keep your right leg facing forward, but rotate your left leg and then rotate your pelvis away from your right leg. As you come up, start to bring your pelvis more level. And then once you're more level, we do a rotation of the rib cage from right to left, and then your arms come up. Warrior 2. Notice what's happening in this leg. If this leg is turning in, that's kind of a yucky, for me it's a yucky feeling because my foot's facing in that direction. So I want to keep my leg facing forward so my knee goes forward. Turn and look over your front hand, or look to your back hand, or look up to the sky. You get to decide. Take your back hand back down. Turn your entire right arm up and lift up. And then lean forward. I say elbow to knee because I want to really reach out and get as long as I can on my right side. But it can be forearm to thigh. Then rotate again. Sweep this arm down and up. Reach out, lengthening through the whole side of the body. Remember the breathing we were doing into the rib cage earlier. Press down into your right elbow or forearm so you can reach out and lift up from your shoulder. And then slowly roll, turn down. I hope I did everything we did on the first side. You'll see, I don't always. Place your hands, your suction cups, align your fingers and your palms and your wrists. Tuck your toes and notice the moment just before you lift up and come into downward dog. I like to separate my feet here a little bit, and we'll take a few moments to see what needs to move. Do I need to bend my knees to feel more length and more strength in my shoulders? Lengthen my spine, strengthen my shoulders. Not a resting pose, definitely not. Bring your feet a little bit closer together. This time lift your right leg up. Lower your left heel towards the floor. It does not have to touch, and you can also bend your left knee. Lift your right leg up and bend at your knee. Rotate your thigh bone out to the side, so it's like I'm lifting my knee towards the right side. And then rotate your pelvis. Turn your spine. So I'm now leaning more towards my left arm. And then you can reach your right leg out again, wherever it happens to be. Look at this beautiful rotation going through the whole spine. Then keep your leg lifted wherever it happens to be. Maybe it's lower. And then rotate everything back. Try to keep your leg at the same height that it's at. Level pelvis. Here we go. Sweeping the leg forward. Step. Turn your back foot. Step in a little bit and turn it towards the top left corner of your mat and lift up. So here's a warrior one pose. Bend your front knee and imagine instead of trying to get your knee to bend, try to get your sit bones to lower down at the same rate. And stay right in the center. Straighten your front leg. Take your arms out to the sides. Check in with your breathing. Start to hinge at your hips, your hip joints here. So not at your waist, if you possibly can. We want to stay long through the spine. So if that's happening for you, just means your pelvis isn't able to turn that far in this position. So here's what you can do. Bend your front knee and then come forward. So bring your hands to your chair in front or your blocks beside or even the floor, and you can push into your right big toe, pull your outer right hip back, and move your front leg in the direction of straight. It's not necessarily a destination, it's a direction to move in. It's also possible to come into flexion in your spine again. So you might be in a variation that looks quite different than that looks more like this. Lengthen your spine, come halfway up, press your palms down, and step back with your right foot. In between sides, let's come down into child's pose. So your knees can be together or they can be wide. In all cases, I like to send my sit bones back first, keeping the front of my body long, including my belly, especially my belly. And then I like to come down and bring my forehead onto my hands. And if you're feeling any pressure or pain from being on your hands in downward dog, this is a great way to clear, I'm going to say clear your wrist, to kind of clear that feeling, that tension out. And I stack my fists and I let my head, my forehead rest right on them. As my belly is compressed, I can feel movement in the back of my body. And I can change which fist goes on top. If I let the weight of my head just rest into my hands and keep my hands solid, my wrists usually feel better. If this feels awful for your ankles, your knees, or your hips, you always have a choice, instead of child's pose, to lay on your back and draw your legs towards each other. Your added bonus here is that you can rock from side to side. You never have to stay in a pose that hurts you. I give you permission to always move out of a pose that might feel like pain to you. Can you give yourself that permission? There's nothing you're supposed to feel or supposed to do. That's one of the beautiful things I think about living in this country, is that we have such choice. Take another moment. We have one more side to do. If you're on your back, flip over into table pose. If you're in child's pose, come up into table pose. Set up your hands. You can do what we did at the beginning if you like. I go wide. I take my baby fingers right to the edge of my mat. I create suction cups and then I lift. So if I didn't create suction cups, it would be a lot of burden on my shoulders. So instead of sinking into my shoulders, down into my hands, I create the opposite, a lifting from the ground up into my shoulders. Gives me some power. Bring your feet a little bit closer together, and we repeat the same thing on the other side. So your left leg lifts, hips stay level to start, lower your right heel towards the floor. Towards, again, is a direction. I'm not asking you to put your heel on the floor. I'm asking you to explore a sensation of stretch in your calf. Then, bend your left knee. Rotate your leg out to the side. Then turn your pelvis. Then turn your spine. And I'm sort of leaning. I can let my head lean on my right arm. Doesn't have to be the case for you, but that's what's happening for me. And then I'm reaching out through my right or my left leg. So wherever it happens to be, maybe it's lower, maybe it's here. And as you reach out, feel the connection through your leg to your body, to your arms, and then start to level your pelvis, keeping that lift through your leg. Pelvis starts to level out. Take your time. Awareness happens when you're really tuning in. I think when I go slowly, I can create more awareness. And then lean forward, shift forward, step forward. Take your left foot or your right foot and step it in slightly. Turn your heel down, come to your blocks or to your chair, and come on up. As you come up, bend your front knee. Take your arms out to the sides and lift them up for a warrior one pose. Connect with your outer right heel here. Imagine it's a windy day and you have $100 bill just peeking underneath your right heel, the outer edge. Connect your outer heel to the floor and adjust where your heel is so that your knee feels like it's in a safe place, the back knee. Then bend the front knee, keeping the rhythm between your pelvis, your rib cage, and your head. So instead of going into a back bend here, we're like sliding the knee forward and dropping both sit bones down. Arms come out to the sides and up, warrior one. I want to be able to breathe here. I want to be able to breathe and send breath into the back of my rib cage as well as the front of my rib cage. And then straighten your front leg. Take your arms down and out to the sides. Hinge at your hips. So my pelvis is almost facing completely forward. Maybe off to a slight angle, but I want to use this front leg. This is the crease I want to deepen here. I want to move this part of my thigh back, and it might mean I need to bend my knee to get that to happen. Then I can come to blocks, to a chair, to the floor. The destination is not necessarily straightening the leg, but it's a direction you can go in. What I'm hoping that you'll find here is a sensation of release through the back of this front leg. Press down into your left big toe base, the ball of the foot, as if you're trying to slide it forward. And as you're doing that action, bring your awareness up here to your outer left hip and pull back. So you've got these 2 points moving away from each other. Back and up, down and forward. You can do that with a bent knee as much as you can with a straight leg. Spine is long, with an option to bow so that we come into more flexion, more rounding through the low back, mid back, and upper back. If, when you round forward, your belly actually moves away from your front leg, come back to more of an extended part, bend your front knee, get your belly and your thigh to come closer, and then bow from there. It's just your body saying, hey, I don't want that stretch. It's okay. Cause and effect. You can do it however you want. But if you want to focus on lengthening and releasing these hamstring muscles, this is the way to do it. One of the ways. Okay, take your blocks or your chair out of the way. Bring your hands down. Step back. One more downward dog. You have an option to come down onto your knees. And while you're here in downward dog, I'm separating my feet a little bit, so put a little space between your feet and turn both heels towards the right. So I shift on my hips. I land on the outer edge of my right foot, the inner edge of my left. And then I'm going to go again. If my downward dog isn't long enough, I'm going to feel like I can't stretch out. So you can walk your feet further away. Get a nice long downward dog. One more time on each side. Swivel. And swivel. And then back into the center, where we'll come down onto hands and knees. And we'll lay down. Come down onto your back. I'm going to move my blocks out of the way because I do have a habit sometimes of kicking them over. Have your strap or your tie nearby as you come down. Feel also free to have a drink. We're almost done. We're starting to wind down just a little bit. I want to work a little bit with the spine, more supported here first. So come onto your back with your legs bent. Bring your hands to your pelvis in an effort to feel more level across the front of your pelvis. So you have 2 front hip points at the front, called the ASIS, and you have your pubic bone at the front, where the 2 halves of your pelvis join into cartilage. And if we put heels of the hands on the 2 hip points and middle fingers pointing towards or on the pubic symphysis or pubic bones, then we can have a better sense of finding where level is. And with your hands on your belly, if you're tuning into your breath, just feel how your hands move when you breathe in and breathe out. I'm grateful that I can lie on the floor in my studio here and I can breathe with my eyes closed and feel safe. I'm grateful that you are on the other side of this camera somewhere, celebrating with me in your own way. If you're not tuning into your breath, just feel the rise and fall of your hands. Then take your arms away, bring your arms out to the sides. Set up your feet so that you feel that they are in line with your knees. Your toes are facing forward. I'm going to say not quite your outer hip distance. Then bend at your elbows and press down into the floor from your shoulder to your elbow. Palms face inward towards each other. And then feel the connection you have with the back of your head to the floor. If your chin is really lifted and you're reaching your head towards the back of the floor like this would be a good time to put a pillow underneath your head to bring your head more level. As you press into your feet and the backs of your arms from your elbows to your shoulders, you can start to lift your pelvis away from the floor. As soon as you lift, notice how there's an engagement through your abdomen, through your legs. And bring your hips up in line with your knees, so your knees in the diagonal line to your shoulders. I'm going to just lean over to the right and tuck my left shoulder under a little bit and do the same on the other side. So I'm just kind of getting the lay of the land. Do I need to walk my feet in closer or further away? As I lift, what happened to my head? If I put a pillow under, did that make my chin drop into my chest? Can I make my neck more neutral by lifting my chin away? And neutral, what I mean by neutral is a slight curve in your neck. We'll just stay here for another moment or two, giving an opening through the top of the chest. And then roll down through your spine. So now you can take your strap or your tie, whatever you have, and thread it underneath your body. I'm going to take this one step further. And I've got it down here where my hands would be, so underneath my legs more than anything. And we'll start the same way. This time, hold on to the strap just outside your hip distance, right beside your hips, and press into your feet. Lift your pelvis off the floor. Press into the backs of your arms still, but your arms are more straight. And if they're not straight here, go wider until your arms can be straight. Roll one shoulder under and then the other. And it's possible you can walk your hands towards each other and clasp your hands. If your hands are clasped and they're close to your body and your elbows are bent, I'm going to suggest you go back to the strap. But if you can be here with your hands clasped and your arms straight, you might need to tuck your shoulder blades under a little bit more. So we'll take another moment or two here. Actively lifting your pelvis will create activity, engagement in your gluteus maximus muscles. Good to have those ones on your side. Chin lifting in case your neck is compressed. And then release your hands from the strap or from each other. Walk your shoulders back out and roll down through your spine. You can take the strap out from underneath you, lift your right leg up, bend it, rotate it, and place your right ankle on your left thigh. Now we're going to have just enough time. And just rock your pelvis here from side to side. So we're massaging through the back of the body, those gluteus muscles perhaps. I'm also going to take my strap and have it close by because I might just need it for this next part. Come back into the center and reach out. See if you can grab the back of your thigh. And if not, thread your strap around the back of your thigh. I say strap, but it could be your tie, whatever you have, tie or scarf. Then I'm going to hold my hands up here because I want to wrap my hands in and plant my upper arms down again, just like I did in the last pose. Then I'm going to pull both legs towards me until I start to feel a sensation of stretch through my right outer hip. I'm going to stay more neutral through my upper body. You can, again, rock from side to side here. See what it feels like. Do you want to be further away? Do you want to bring your legs closer? And if you find it's too much, you're feeling pain in your right knee, Keep your left leg on the ground and rock from side to side there. You know, we always want to balance gaining something without putting something at risk. Sometimes it's a challenging tightrope to walk. Okay, let's release. Take your right leg off. Bring your right leg down. It can be bent or you can stretch it out straight. And then keep holding the back of your leg here. Bring your left leg towards you and slowly start to lift your left foot up. Only go to where you feel the sensation beginning. I've got my arms still planted on the floor, and I'm going to press out through the ball of my big toe just like we did in the standing pose. Keep my outer left hip moving down towards the floor while I push up through the left base of my toe or the ball of my foot. Your leg can be here and your leg can be bent, but your arms are holding your leg in place until you find that sweet spot. Two more moments. And then release by bending your leg more. Take the strap out. Take your left leg and stretch it out for a moment. Notice the difference between left and right legs. Feels like I've had a practice today. Thank you for joining me. Okay, bend both legs. Lift up your left leg. Rotate it so I'm turning it out to the side. Then place your left ankle just on your thigh below your knee. Pause and see, how does this feel? Did I have to lower my back into the floor to get this position? An option is to walk your right foot away from you. And maybe you're right here. And spend some time rocking from side to side if that feels like, that's exactly what I need right now. I'm not saying you can't just grab your leg and bring it in towards you. You can do whatever you want. It's your practice. I'm trying to guide you into a practice or through a practice that maybe it's not what you always do. Maybe it allows for space for learning something new or connecting with a part of your body that you don't normally connect with. And then come back into the center, and here we go again. You can reach and see. If I reach for the back of my leg, I'm going to distort my spine and my head like this. So instead, I'm going to lift my leg up, take my strap around, and then bring my hands a little bit closer to me so I can root my upper arms down, wrap my hands in, and then rock again. So now I'm trying to aim this as a stretch sensation in my outer left buttock. If you want something different or not feeling it where I'm suggesting, play with it. This is your practice. Maybe a circle. And then come back into the middle. Lower your right foot down. Maybe even slide it out to take your left leg. Straighten your leg and lower it to the floor. Use your hands on the strap to hoist your right leg up and start to lift your lower leg towards the ceiling. It can be bent. Lower back, ideally, we don't want it dropping into the floor. If my low back drops into the floor, then the back of my left thigh comes away from the floor. So I want to try to balance those two places. Back of my left thigh moving towards the floor, lower back lifting away from the floor. And then wherever you happen to be, press out through your big toe base, or the ball of your foot, and root your outer right hip crease towards the floor. My strap I'm using as an anchor. I'm holding it, or a brace to hold it in place so I don't have to brace in my body or hold my breath. Connect the dots between your outer right hip and your big toe mound on your right foot and pull those 2 points away from each other. You can do that with a bent leg. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to find an action that your body's not used to, but give yourself some time. Have some patience with yourself. And then slowly lower your leg down. And I think it's time we rest. Push all your props away, except for maybe your blanket for underneath your head. See if there's anything else that you'd like to do here before you settle. How do you need to adjust your body? Maybe lying on your back isn't the best option for you right now. Maybe lying on your side or lying on your belly might be better. I like to come into whatever pose I am in and just connect with my hands on my body somewhere to feel how there's still movement because I'm breathing, even though I've become still. And can I continue to practice yoga, which is bringing my mind into my body, into my experience, without letting it drift away too often? And anytime it does, can I bring it back? Unhinge your jaw. Let your eyes sink back away from your closed eyelids. Hear the sound of my voice. And the unique experience we're having here online like this means you can stay right where you are if you want to stay longer and rest. You know, maybe this is the practice you've done before bedtime. You can stay a little bit longer. But if you're ready to move, maybe start wiggling your fingers and toes. Take a breath and sigh or yawn. And then start to move whatever way your body wants to. the kind of stretching that needs no instruction. Your body just knows. And if you're moving towards sitting, you can always sit in your chair. I'm a big proponent of sitting in a chair, but learning how to sit with a spine that's long and tall. So if you're doing that, roll over to one of your sides. And as you start to lift up, stretch out your top leg, have a little momentum, push your hands into the floor, and up you come from the side. Other ways to do it, of course. I like that way because then it doesn't put as much pressure into the pelvis. And then come and sit up, sitting on your blocks, your props. Sit so there's an ease to the pose. And then bring your palms together in front of your heart. And if you're still lying down, maybe just bring some awareness to the center of your chest, behind your breastbone, to your heart center, your loving spiritual heart center. Find gratitude for this moment, for this day, for your family, for your community, for the true north, strong and free. Thank you for coming. Blessings to all.